going on, Jeromes homies? Back again for some Q&A. Thank you everyone who's submitted questions on the community tab when we call out for them. It's fantastic. First up, Tim Lindsay. I've wondered for a long time if some teams save up a set of plays just for the playoffs. Over the years, I can't really remember seeing that to a large degree. Would it make sense to do that, especially in the current NFL where teams have film on virtually everyone and every play they run? Your thoughts on these thoughts? So, yes, generally coordinators, coaches of the playoff teams, they got a little something. All right, and it's the end of the year for some of these teams, and it is a do or die, win or go home situation, so you're going to pull out all the stops. And it could be things that were installed back in OTAs and training camp that hasn't really come up, or ideas that they have in the back of their folders, and they just go for it. And I think that the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, first playoff game 2022, didn't really see that, but I feel like this time around there's going to be some going for broke. And you see Kevin O'Connell get more confident and competent as a play caller and play designer, though not in the red zone. But I think there's going to be some weird stuff. Because I feel like Kevin O'Connell can't help himself. And yeah, we get angry when the double pass or the reverse pass or the receiver pass doesn't work. But when it works, baby, come on. And Flores, of course, always cooks up these bat bleep insane disguises, coverages, blitzes. So yeah, we're going to be in for a treat on Monday night. Next. Halibut. Vikings get 4 more days to prepare for the Rams this time, and they're not coming off a loss, and they did all they could and still lost first Lions game. It'll be different against the Rams this time. Not really a question, but yes, I agree. The whole thing about it was the Vikings coming off the loss against Detroit. It is what it is, the first loss of the season, and then the Rams' short week. The Rams playing games with the injury report. Puka activated 3.5 hours before kickoff. Kind of ridiculous, but the Vikings certainly could have won the Rams game. No, it doesn't come down to that face mask, but it did preclude the Vikings from having that one last drive. But basically, the offense showed up early, but not often. Defensively, they were able to do some things, except Stafford was able to get rid of the ball quick, and also that beleaguered Rams offensive line only allowed 3 pressures on 33 dropbacks, which is just redonkulous, right? But this is different, where now instead of woulda, coulda, shoulda, the Vikings just got waxed in Week 18. So now you're pissed off, and now you're going to come back for revenge, which is actually pretty good. Next, Don X. Juan. Why does Kevin O'Connell seem scared or apprehensive to call a single run play in the red zone after the Pace interception, and we had the ball at the 7-yard line and 0 run plays? Inexcusable play calling in the red zone all game by Kevin O'Connell. IMO thoughts. So there's a stat we put out there in the dump, I think on Wednesday, where it talks about the Vikings. The running backs are being contacted in line of scrimmage, and they lead the league in negative or 0-yard running plays down inside the 10, which is inexcusable. And partly it's execution, partly it's play calling, and maybe Kevin O'Connell does need to change some things up, where the Vikings are 19th in the league in red zone efficiency, which is just inexcusable for the caliber of talent on this offense. But maybe it is the offensive line, maybe it is the play calling. Maybe they have to run more gap instead of outside zone or inside zone, but don't know. But the fact that you're not confident or competent being able to punch it in from inside the 10 and certainly not inside the 5, it's just it is frustrating. And plus, how many plays Jefferson, Addison, long receptions down inside the 5, a defensive turnover down inside the 5, or whatever long play, and it's just this we're not going to get in. Or have to sell for 3, and record might miss, which is a bad mindset to have. But Jones, I do wonder if Aaron Jones is dinged up this time of year, even though he set a career high for rushing yardage. But Cam Akers looks good, man. Ripping off that 58-yarder against the Lions. Maybe 270 needs to be involved a little bit more in the playoffs. Who knows? Next, Wes Van. Do you think the Rams can follow the defensive blueprint that the Lions laid out for them? Well, the problem with the Rams is that they can get consistent pressure with 4, and that's a bit of an issue. So they don't have to zero blitz every single time. With Verse and with Fisk and with Kobe Turner, like Byron Young, they can get after things, right? But I do think that it is a copycat league, and obviously the Rams defensive staff saw what worked against the Vikings, and they played press man across the board. And Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson, even though they're getting open, Darnold was being inert and inaccurate, and the refs weren't calling it, because that's what happens in big-time games and into the playoffs, where they let the players play. And is it bad to a degree? Yes. Should the Vikings defense also adopt it? Yes. But, of course, it's going to get called on us. But that's what's going to happen. Like, basically, they're going to keep playing press man and grabbing until Darnold gets his head right, and then Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson completely rips the cover off the ball and gets these big-time chunk plays. That's it. I mean, in the middle of the season, you saw a proliferation of split safeties. You know, a lot of teams just having two deep safeties playing cover two, and that was keeping everything in front of them and limiting the Vikings' explosive plays. But the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell respect. They shifted things around. They got around it, and then they got after things. Right. So hopefully they'll be able to do that in the playoffs. Lastly, Ed Madame, what do you think the coaching staff will do to move on from last night, Sunday night against the Lions? It wasn't just another game. It feels like they need to acknowledge that and get back out in front of it for a clean slate Monday. I like the tone and tenor from the locker room, from the press conferences, from the comments from the players and the coaches. Like, they're pissed, right? And it's something that maybe this team needed, right? So you reeled off that 9 straight wins, Darnold playing exceedingly high football for the last 7, and you hadn't really, well, you had faced adversity, right? Having to come back to win against the Cardinals, having to stave off a comeback against the Bears, having to come back win on the road against the Seahawks, and also, you know, outdueling Green Bay. Like, so there has been some adversity, but there's no adversity like just getting punched square in the face, right? And that's what happened to the Vikings. And it wasn't even the Lions punching them, much to the chagrin of Dan Campbell, but it's the Vikings basically just beat the hell out of themselves. They punched themselves in the face repeatedly, right? And now they're bloodied, but they're not defeated. Their head is not bowed, and they're pissed off. And I think that in a weird way, if you're going to lose, I actually feel like a close game would have been the worst, because the previous 2 losses for the Vikings were close things. You know, a play here, a play there. You know, they pick up that first down on 3rd down against the Lions, they win. If they didn't concede all that ridiculousness in the middle of the Rams game, they win. So it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda type situation. They just got de-pants. They completely shat themselves a week 18, and there's no way around that. So that can refocus you. That can really light a fire under your ass. And I think that all phases of this team, they're not going to be complacent, which, say the Vikings had won, or if it was a close loss, you'd be like, hey, we won. Who demand? We demand. Who demand? We demand. Or a close loss, you're like, so close. We'll get them later. I think that's a piss poor mindset to have. And now the Vikings are going to be pissed off. They're hungry, heading to the playoffs, and baby, let's go eat. I think they're going to get after things. We're going to have to get mean, even though that doesn't seem like it's in Kevin O'Connell's DNA. I guess we'll find out, man. But that's it. Your thoughts are thoughts. Vikings Q&A on this beautiful day, baby. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.